Ladies and gents, let's look at the Brewmaster Monk. Many of you thinking about rolling this one, no doubt. Came to the forefront, didn't it, in Mr. Pandarian? Became the ultimate badass. The one that everybody kind of wanted around on many occasions because they have a lot of unique abilities that they bring to the table. And as such, and considering they are the epitome of active mitigation, they are the absolute kings of it. They were designed with it completely in mind. They have a significant advantage over other tanks in terms of how the actual incoming damage is measured in the game. It's as simple as that, where other tanks are trying to catch up and are patching their ways in and sort of band-aiding over how this works. The monks are fully intended to work in that environment, and as such, they become very powerful. In Mr. Pandaria, the Brewmaster Monk was absolutely one of my favourite tanks to play. It was an absolute joy. It had pure control. And I love that in my tank. Pure control. Lots of decisions to be made, balancing acts. There was a patience to it. There was an absolute meticulous nature to how the Brewmaster did its thing. It could take its time. It could consider its options. It was always rolling and flowing like a river, always looking for when the bumps are coming up and trying to think of ways of countering those bumps, all the time with a little bit of a measure of a level-headed approach. And I really like that, and that was the absolute reflection of its pure design in terms of active mitigation. How is it playing in Warlords of Draenor? Not the same. Not the same at all. It really is not. Significant things are kind of different now, and it could be, and I'm fully prepared to accept this, is that we're used to having a higher level of gear in Mr. Pandaria. It's very hard for me to think back to the beginning, the beta of Mr. Pandaria when we tested it then, but I've checked the videos, and one of the major changes you're going to find as you come into Warlords of Draenor is that Stagger, even at a light level, is deadly. Really fucking deadly. And I don't like that at all. You're in an environment now where essentially as soon as you see the notification that you have a light stagger, you need to purify it away. You need to get rid of it, otherwise that damage mounts up very quickly. And if you leave it for any period of time, you are going to be in a very bad situation very, very fucking quickly. Now, the way we're used to playing is that light stagger's like, okay, I'm taking some damage, nothing scary is going on here, I'm not in a medium level, I'm not at a threatening level, and I mean, even the actual colour of it indicates that it's not a threatening level. The colours and the notifications remain the same in Warlords of Draenor, however, light stagger is fucking vicious, really fucking vicious, and that promotes a different style of gameplay, which in fact turns me off a little bit from the class, and that is being very spammy. Very, very spammy. I don't think tanks should ever be spammy. That's not the way it works with tanking. It's a very methodical approach. You've got to be thinking about the encounter, not just the fact that I might die any second and I need to do this, otherwise I am fucked. And that's not a nice way to play a tank at any stage of the game. So what we have here is a combination of other things. One, the ability to use Serenity. As much as people want to use Chi Explosion, I've said this a couple of times now, I said it in the early look that we actually took on Monks, is that Chi Explosion is pretty much bullshit in my opinion. It's an all-in-one tanking button, and I'm getting the gut feeling, I really am getting the gut feeling that Blizzard regrets Chi Explosion and the effects that it has, which is to purify and to cause shuffle and all that kind of AoE, so it's an all-in-one tank for you button. I don't think they like that. That's kind of reflected in the new tier set bonuses that don't work with Chi Explosion, which is kind of interesting that that has been bypassed, considering how powerful the new bonuses are. And we'll talk about them in a sec, because I do have some thoughts on them. So, in that case, you're using Serenity. Now, what Serenity allows you to do is something really odd, which again is counter to how I think many of you would play your Brewmaster Monk. And that is that you can get Shuffle up to about a minute at the very beginning of a fight. A minute-long shuffle, and then what you're doing is very much spending every last waking moment of Chi purifying damage on almost every other global cooldown. You're going kind of jab, jab, purify, jab, purify, keg smash, purify, jab, purify. And you're constantly in this rhythm of just getting rid of purify and stagger as much as humanly possible. And what you're left with is mixing in things like your Chi Brew, if that's what you're using, or your Zen Sphere, which seems to be the best right now. You're trying to mix these in wherever possible, but you feel like you're furiously attacking your keyboard just to keep up and keep this damage reduction going before, as I said earlier, you end up in a really bad situation. Now, this is something that could be alleviated with gear in the future, as we get more armor, etc., etc., and the stagger's maybe not as deadly, we have more health, and so on and so forth. But as you go into Warlords of Draenor, you're going to have a very different playstyle. You're going to be fast, you're going to be furious, you're going to be attacking your keyboard to keep up with how encounters go. And if you don't, you'll see your health bar dropping very quickly. And it's an odd style of play, and it's one, I've got to say, I didn't particularly enjoy compared to how I play my Brewmaster in Mist, which I have an absolute pleasure on. It's what I rated it as my #1 tank class for quite some time in Mists of Pandaria, not feeling it quite so much now. But it's all subject to change. That's something you've got to bear in mind. It's all subject to change. So, on top of that, let's talk about these tank bonuses. Now, they've said that the tank PvE bonuses are likely to be changed because they're overpowered. However, I believe, having said that, that the actual crux and the way they will work is going to remain the same, but the bonuses will change. So, as it currently stands in PvE terms, your set bonuses are curious because Purifying Brew actually generates elusive brew charges. That's right, which further promotes this spammy playstyle. It really does. Now, it might be a case of they nerf it so it generates less elusive brew charges. That doesn't help matters much because you're still going to be spamming Purifying Brew as much as possible. And I don't think Purifying Brew should be the main focus of a Brewmaster. As amazing as it is, and God knows it's amazing to take a load of damage and then get rid of a huge portion of it that isn't going to be ticking on you. That is just a fantastic ability. It's got to be balanced in a way that you can make decisions around it. I don't think that process exists much anymore in my time playing it. When I'm going into dungeons, and especially if you're pugging and you're doing stuff with maybe weaker healers or DPS that aren't really getting the job done and you're going to have a longer fight, then you certainly need to be reducing your incoming damage as much as possible, as any tank would. But at the same time, the way you're achieving that is being very, very spammy and using chi in ways maybe you didn't want to. Maybe you actually wanted to save some chi to do something pretty special. You wanted to save some chi to really focus on shuffle. Now, you notice it a couple of times my shuffle fell off every now and again, and that was purely because I was so enamored with purifying the damage away and getting elusive brew up to a near 100% uptime, which is very easy to do right now in Warlords of Draenor. And that playstyle, not for me. It's only a very subtle change, I admit, but God, it changes the entire environment of playing a monk. They're still powerful because they bring so much to the table. They bring so much utility and they're able to cope with things in a very crazy way, but they were never spammy. And they feel spammy now, but I do believe that will alleviate. I do believe with better and more experienced healers, it will be less of an issue. But right now, in the stuff I'm testing for you guys to show you, that's how it's playing out. I'm not a great fan of it, but I'm pretty sure it's going to change. So I'm just pre-warning you when you guys join into Warlords of Draenor, if you're going to be a Brewmaster monk, be prepared to be very, very spammy at the beginning. And where we were spinning plates, which is what I always compare it to, is spinning plates, is you'll be spinning them much, much quicker now. You'll be just trying to keep up with them. It's almost as if you're falling behind in a race and trying to keep up. Otherwise, you're going to fall over and trip on your face, and then you've got a broken nose, and nobody wants that. Alright guys, that's how the Brewmaster's looking right now. It's something I might revisit closer to launch, maybe. See if anything has altered with it. Lots of forum speculation about how this thing is going to work out. Does it work as a tank? I guess is the actual question you guys want to ask me. Is it a solid tank? Yes, absolutely. Can it cope with everything? Yes, absolutely. Let's not take away from this that this isn't working. It totally works. It works fine. And in fact, once you get your stagger down to like 10% of your damage taken, which is where I was trying to aim for, instead of 50%. If you don't do this, you end up with like 50 to 60% of your damage taken being stagger. If you get it down to like 10%, you're actually very comfortable in most situations. And that includes the LFR and stuff like that, and the raid bosses that we've tested on Heroic. The monks there were perfectly fine. As long as you could keep a hold of your stagger, keep that stagger out of the way and purify regularly, you can absolutely deal just as well as any other tank. Just as well. Alright guys, see you later.